not stopping it. The beat won't stop, won't stop, won't stop. Beat won't stop, no, it's just not stopping it. The beat won't stop, no, it's just not stopping it. The beat won't stop, no, it's just not stopping it. The beat won't stop, won't stop, won't stop. And the vibes just not stop, no, the beat.
Trying to figure out why that's not working properly. Hang on a second. Yeah, doesn't it sound odd? Right? It sounds odd. Sounds like this. There we go. There we are. Hello.
Ooh.
I didn't have the right thing plugged into the right thing. So very embarrassing. What a way to start the morning.
What right thing to the right thing? What is that?
No, I think you're also coming through the wrong thing. See, hang on a second. Let me see this. Let's try again. How very rude. Talk to me, Siya. Let me check your levels.
1, 2, 3, 7, 6, 8. The right thing to the right thing. Don't we love?
I'll try and figure this out as we go. CliffCentral.com. Good morning. We have lots of things happening today, but most especially and most excitingly, we have none other than Gilli Apter is back. Yes, people asked especially for Gilli, and here she is. She managed to make it up this morning and join us. Thank you, Gilli.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, hang on. This is a great start. I just got to figure out. I'm going up and come back in. Let me just try and figure this out because Gilli's not coming through the right speaker, and neither are you, Siya.
No.
I see you now.
Gosh.
You go.
Oh, this is.
I guess it's just us then.
Gilli, just the two of us on this here Tuesday morning.
It's fine with me. I mean, we're okay. We can carry on. There's lots of things we can talk about without Gareth. I mean, he plugged the wrong thing into the right thing, or the right thing into the wrong thing, which I think explains a lot, really, when you think about Gareth, as a whole.
This is when I saw this first thing in the morning, I knew we were in trouble.
You don't like doing this first thing in the morning?
Right.
No. I don't know.
You're not a morning. You don't like this in the morning? All right. Just checking.
So I don't know if you've audio is not very complicated. You've got male and female audio parts, right? And the audio part for the male is obviously something that looks like. Let me just show you.
Gareth, always so obsessed with the binary.
So okay, yeah, this is great. I think I've like completely the wrong thing here. To show you
I was just about to say, just be careful what you unplug for this example. Oh no!
I mean,
start again.
I'm concerned. I don't know about you guys.
Can you hear me? Oh, Jesus. Okay, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
we can hear you loud and clear.
So basically, you got these little pluggy thingies, and this would be a male thingy here, and then you get a female version. And
you know what your problem is, Gareth?
What's the problem?
You're obsessed with these, gender norms, binary gender norms.
Oh yes,
that's
how it starts.
Woke.
Yeah. You've got to be more woke, and then all of your stuff will plug into where it's supposed to plug into, just as it goes. Guys, I have to tell you something. I'm going to be eating these oats. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, look at you, breakfast of champions.
Siya, you have to look out for number one in life. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, now we're working properly. All right. So you say I'm obsessed with the binary gender norms, and that's my problem. But really, I mean, like, technology doesn't allow for like gender non-binary things to happen. Audio.
I think we need to progress in the terminology. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so let's change the terminology. So first of all, what are those oats? Are you on some kind of health tip, or is this what you do every day?
No, I'm just hungry, and I'm doing this show. I almost spilled that all over my laptop. I'm doing this show from the gym.
Oh, very impressive.
From the gym boardroom, because it's quiet here, and it's and I've got a training session after this, so I figured I'm just going to do it. And there's somebody here that can make me oats. You know what I'm saying?
What a win. I think that's terrific, because if you're anything like me, you can't, I don't know how to make breakfasts or to make anything complicated. Certainly oats sounds like a complicated thing to do. And I do remember.
No, breakfast is the only thing I can make, actually, but who's got time in the morning?
So what did you make of the the whole Suez Canal thing and that boat that blocked up the Suez Canal? Because I'm sure you have something to say about that.
Talking about
I
technology
mean-
and things not working.
I did wonder how it is possible for something like that to happen. You know, I mean, usually I don't think the boats are big enough for something like that to happen. That's all I'm saying. You know, usually the boats slide right through. If you know what I mean.
No, I don't know what you mean.
Are we still
This
talking
may
about?
no longer be about boats.
Yeah. Listen, Gilli, we need to just sort out your levels here this morning as well. So you're very loud.
no.
There. So
Oh,
we just
no.
need to, we just need to bring down your levels a little bit because last week.
How do I do that? Is that you?
I think
No,
I think
I can do it on my side.
it's like a not shout situation. But
Oh
here's
yeah, I
Trace.
don't want, because sometimes I do shout, so I want that to be,
Yeah, you don't want to come across as like a fishwife.
What's a fishwife?
Yeah.
I'm so scared. I'm so scared for the answer of this.
My
What
mother
is
used
that?
to say this when we were kids and we would shout. She'd say, "Don't shout. That's what fishwives do." So I think it must be something that in the Middle Ages, people who used to sell fish would shout at each other.
That is such
I don't
a
have any
weird
fish to
thing.
sell.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a nice thing. Not at all. Anyway, yesterday they managed to dislodge that ship that had been blocking the Suez Canal. But I saw some amazing footage of all the other ships that were lined up, waiting to get through the canal. And it's unbelievable. It was like thousands and thousands and thousands of ships. And really, I had no idea that there were that many waiting in the wings. But, we were joking about it and carrying on. But billions and billions and billions of dollars of trade put on hold until they could clear that ship
Did you
out of the
lose
way.
anything in that trade? Were you waiting for something that didn't arrive?
No, no, thank God. I'm not such a big deal that I have containers full of stuff heading anywhere.
You didn't
But I'm
order
sure
a
that there are-
bride from anywhere. That's
No.
Not yet. But if
Okay,
you do,
just
apparently
checking.
they don't bring those. Apparently they don't bring those by container. You just
I see.
just go to one of the major, Mavericks in Cape Town or the Grand in Joburg, and then you can
that's better.
you
I
can
suppose.
you ask them about their sisters or their cousins or their nieces, and they say, "Oh, you like? I invite her here. She come to meet you." Very
Yes. I think I'm just saying this because I got into an accident a few weeks ago.
What kind of accident? Did your boat also get stuck in a canal?
Absolutely, yes.
All right. Good for you. It just shows. You know what that shows? That tells me you're traveling. Tells me you're going places. If you know what I mean. Tells me you are
I
living
thought it
life.
was. I'm also very talented. If I can also travel and steer ships at this point.
Indeed.
I'm thinking about that feeling when you're an inconvenience to others.
Oh,
like
wow.
That's such a good point.
When I had my accident, just the fact that my car was on the side of the road and still had to be in one lane and was a 2-lane road, and now there was a backlog and people had to steer around me, and I felt like, traffic is now backing up because of me. Imagine what it's like to be the person
to be on that
who
boat.
steered that.
So embarrassing. So embarrassing. You're so right.
Embarrassing.
Well,
I'm cringing on their behalf.
I couldn't agree more. Like, that's such a horrible feeling. I also hate being an inconvenience. Like, if I'm in the shop and someone comes along with their trolley, I just automatically get out of the way, because it's worse for me to be in the way for them than it is for me to just get what I need and keep them waiting for like a minute or two. So, and there are some people who don't care about this stuff. They've got no sense of like personal space or spatial awareness. And I suppose this poor guy who was driving this who was piloting this boat, I don't think he'll ever get work in shipping again. I mean, that's like the most embarrassing thing. You imagine when they all get together for drinks, they're like, there's old, what's his name? Rudolph or Julio or whatever his name is.
Poor Rudolph.
What an idiot,
Because I instantly start to apologize even at the shops when you're standing at the till. If
Yeah.
something happens where like one of the things I'm buying doesn't have a barcode and then someone has to go and get the barcode for me, instantly I'm like, I'm in an inconvenience. I have to apologize. If something happens with my card and declines or something has to be reloaded, I feel bad for that. Even afterwards, once everything has been paid for, and you now just have to deal with getting a slip or your cash. And then it's like, I need to be out of here.
I have a
in 2
question for you,
seconds.
Siya. Do you get more embarrassed if this happens at Woolies?
Well, particularly with the declining card thing, have you ever felt, does this happen to you? I don't know. Maybe I'm just like a minority in this. When your card declines and you know it's because the card has an issue, not because you don't have the cash. You want to now explain it to people who have no
you want to just go to the people in the queue. And like, you want to get on that thing that goes, teller 6, have your My School and Woolies cards ready. And then also, please understand, Gilli's card did work earlier today. This is a technical fault.
Yes.
It's not because she's dirt poor and has run out of money.
No,
the card
it's not because of that. Or maybe it is, but she would not like you to know about it. Teller 6, please have your Woolworths and My School cards ready.
That's
I once saw a woman who was obviously like devastated that her card wasn't working, and she just burst into tears because it was declined, and I'm not sure how to deal with that. So luckily I wasn't in the queue right behind her, but I saw it and I couldn't help feeling sorry for this poor woman because she was obviously not only embarrassed, but maybe there was actually no money on the card and she now had to do something about these groceries. That's got to be a terrible feeling.
Ooh.
Yeah, that sucks. I had an experience recently when I was at Pick and Pay, by the way. I had an experience. I was standing in the queue and a guy comes up to me.
Yeah.
And he's got a basket. He's got maybe 1 or 2 things in the basket. And he very gently comes up to me and says to me, like he basically is asking me for help. He asking me for some, to pay for his groceries, right?
Oh.
And and it was very like, it was like just very sad and whatever. And I said, yes, sure, no problem. Meet me at the till, because I just had to quickly like finish what I was doing, and I would have given him cash, but I didn't have any. So then then anyway, I do my groceries. He meets me at the till, and then when we got to the till, there was a lot more stuff in that basket than when he approached me. It was like, and it was all like, reasonable stuff that you would need to feed yourself or your family. There was peanut butter and there was, canned stuff or whatever it was. There was nothing like crazy. But I did think like, okay, this is at least 3 times. And now you're at the till. I'm like, I can't be like, yo, bro, this is not what we agreed on. And then I have to tell you this. I have to say this, okay? I was like, you know what? Okay, this is my good deed for the week or whatever it is. It's fine.
Sure.
I made my peace with it. But then he opened a Pepsi. And I just thought, you know what? Maybe not today. Maybe Pepsi is the thing you get with, the money you didn't spend on your groceries, bro. Like, just make it look a little bit more, more helpless. The Pepsi really rubbed me up the wrong way. I can't even explain why.
It's almost like when you sort of give a homeless person whatever you've got, like they're going like, I want some food or whatever. So maybe you have something in a packet next to you and you give it to them, and then they look at you like, kind of, is that it?
Yes.
That's the kind of thing that you're talking about. It's almost like you want to say, excuse me, but you also feel like, well, I've got to be charitable, and you don't get to ask questions if you're going to be charitable. No,
you don't. You don't. Like, man, you know what? I was like, he did a good job that day. I was impressed. As I saw him walking away, I thought that was a good hustle. Like I could not have pulled off what he just pulled off.
No.
I want to go do that at a store like Gucci. You know what I mean? Just go up to one of those women, like, and be like, I'm so sorry, but I haven't been able to afford this handbag ever, and times are really tough. Could you please just throw it in amongst the rest of the things you're buying? Do you think that would work?
I don't know if it will have the same effect. Hey, I don't think so.
Somehow I don't see it working, but it's worth a try, Gilli.
Worth a try. Thank you.
You can report to us afterwards and let us know how it goes.
I'm going to.
So There's a bunch of things on the agenda for this morning. We got to talk about some of the stuff that's in the news. We'll get to the headlines just now. And because it's Tuesday, we've got that one thing for the week, which everybody enjoys, so we can find out exactly what the thing is that you're going to do to improve your day. All of that's coming up in a little while. We want to hear from you, 0797482090. So you can tell us what's going on there as well. Siya, what have you been up to since you got back? You've been working nonstop since you got back from Durban, because Durban was like a little mini holiday for you.
A little, but I'm realizing that I'm slowly taking and getting traits from my mother, which is not a good thing. It's really, really bad. I had to come back, and I was doing some admin-y stuff yesterday and cleaning the house. I now realize I talk way too much under my breath, very much like her. and just when I'm alone, which is not right or not normal. As of, I don't know, I think maybe it's also
muttering. Are you muttering under your breath, like saying rude things about people who pass you by, that kind of thing?
But just also, just listing things in my head. Well, now they're more than just in my head, but out loud. It's like, oh, well, okay, well, look at this now. Have to do the washing, but there's not enough detergent. Okay, well, I now need to go full-blown conversations.
Well, and you were saying yesterday that one of the bonuses, one of the few things she's really enjoyed about masks is that she can mutter like that under her breath. And
that's a good point.
People can't see your lips moving, so they don't think you're crazy, and they don't think that you're being insulting, or that you've got some passive aggressive stuff going on. So that's possibly one positive if you're in public and you've got the mask on.
No, not making me feel good at all. And then I
think the first problem is Durban.
Oh, hey. It's too early.
No, I'm sorry, man, Durban. What's going on there with those roads? They don't have a beginning. They don't have an end. It's like somebody took... That road system drives me mad whenever I go to Durban. It's like somebody took spaghetti and just threw it down from the top, and then none of the roads connect. How do you get anywhere in that town?
What do you
These are my own issues.
I know what you mean. A lot of roads in Durban are just like, they suddenly end, or they go nowhere. And it's just finished. It wasn't planned properly.
I'm not complaining at all. And the irony is there's a big, it's not an intersection, but I guess all of these lanes intertwine on a highway, and it's called Spaghetti Junction in Durban. So look, it's home.
There's a reason for that.
It's home to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, we all thought that Siya had gone home to accept the Zulu throne because he was gone at exactly the right. Yeah, and they were talking about who the next king is going to be, and we all thought maybe it's Siya, because he was gone suspiciously at precisely the moment that we thought he was meant to be, crowned as king. But I think they decided again. Cool. Wouldn't it be great if we could as King Siya Sangweni?
I think
for a nation that loves to sing and dance a lot, they didn't appreciate my suggestions of playing music from The Lion King. Because that's how I wanted to be revealed as the next king, and they said they aren't going to do that. So I said, okay, then I'm not going to be king.
Good for you. You stand your ground, okay? You don't let people tell you how to lead your what do you call it? It's not a monarchy. It's a what?
Yeah, your sovereign state. Your
yes, thank you.
You don't tell them how to be a king if you're the king. So Gilli, did you? I mean, I don't know. You never know with anybody, but like I'm. Having the Easter weekend off, regardless, I think we all are. But did you do anything for Pesach, or is that not a thing for you?
It is. Usually it is. You're supposed to do 2 nights
Seders.
Celebrating Pesach, but many, many hours with your family. But the thing is that I value my mental health, so I did not attend.
So you just said no.
I just said no. It's something I've started to do in the last 2 years. It's incredible.
So did the family get... Yeah, I'm sure not. Does she get aggressive with you?
She doesn't get aggressive. She's actually very understanding, thankfully. And what I did is I did stand up for 2 nights in a row. Which, I mean, maybe, if this whole religion thing is real, I might, face some consequences. But, if not...
Could go very badly for you, but it's good news that you're doing stand-up again. That's awesome news.
It is awesome news. Very small shows, very sort of popping up all over the place. Don't know how long they'll last. You know, somebody said to me yesterday, one of the promoters was like, "Oh, it's great that things are getting back," and I was like, "I don't know if back is the word we should be using. I mean, I think it's tentative."
Yeah. No. Well, listen, I'm hoping that the whole thing will pick up very, very soon because, all this talk of like third waves, and there's such like there's a certain crowd in South Africa that they like the panic. They like to make everybody else panic too. There's people who send around those WhatsApps saying, "Ooh, you better stock
yes, I've been doing
this week. These people are going to shut down, or they're going to close that, or this is not going to happen, or if you don't have this."
I've been very firm with people who send me stuff like that. Like, everything is very difficult. Things are negative. I just say, I had a friend send me something like that months back, and I just said, "Please don't ever send me anything like this ever again."
Oh, really?
With respect. And
did they apologize?
He was cool. Yeah, he said, "Sure, no problem. Sorry about that," and we moved on.
I do think some people get a thrill out of it. They enjoy making the rest of us panic.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's enough news out there. I have the information I need.
Yeah. Oh my God, there's so much news. I was talking to a psychologist, a guy called Dr. Hanan Bushkin for the TV show, and he was telling me that
Hanan. He's my therapist.
He's great. Huh? He was saying to me that you've got to be very careful about your diet of news. There are lots of older people like our parents and so on who, I know Siya and I have spoken about this before. Both of our dads, they love watching the news. And I tell you what, if you have that stuff day after day after day, it's going to eventually drive you crazy. It's going to make you feel like the world is much worse than it is.
100%. My parents watch news all day, and for months I've tried to convince them to stop because it's incessant.
Yeah, I think it was also someone on the TV show, Songezo Zibi, who used to be the editor of Business Day, who said, when he goes to like rural parts of the country where he has family and friends, and he asks them about the state of the world, they're a lot more optimistic and positive about things and normal. He said they're normal. They don't get swept up in all the outrage on Twitter. They don't get upset about all the bad news because they're not taking that stuff in. They're doing normal stuff. And
we end up thinking that world that we are engaging with, we end up thinking the world of news and social media and everything that we're being fed is everything, is the whole truth, when really it's a very, very dense, small part of the truth.
Yeah, correct.
I don't know. I guess I'm way too far gone then with all of this news and information, but I'm thinking back to a few months ago when one of my sisters, who's in finance, and she works for a major bank, but particularly she's on the company financing or business financing side of the bank, and she was ignorant, I guess is the word, or rather, ignorance is the word. She didn't know how bad things were in the country on a person-to-person level, because she was in an industry where people were still working. Finance, not a lot of people had been laid off or retrenched. And she doesn't own a TV. She's not big on social media. So she was living in this bit of a bubble of, okay, well, I'm working from home now, and my friends who are also relatively in finance or whatnot are still good. She didn't even know that like retrenchment was a big thing. She was like, oh, okay. I'm like, wait a minute, people trust you to like finance their new business trucks, but you didn't know this? That makes me want to break out in hives a little, to think that you can be so out of the loop so much.
Isn't that the opposite, though, of those people who are they've got a healthy kind of outlook on the whole thing, and they're connected to the news, but they're not watching it all the time? Then there are those people who put their head in the sand and they actually don't know what the hell's going on. And those people are just as infuriating. I mean, they can drive you crazy too, because they just don't care about anything except their own little bubble.
Because they're fine not knowing as well. That's the scary
very extreme part.
I mean, Nico says here in Potchefstroom there is forever a fuckhead, he says, that says the liquor stores are going to close. Can you imagine what a panic that sets people off on in Potchefstroom?
I mean, what else do you have to look forward to there?
Right. Dogosno wants to argue with you, Gilli. He says, like, when you're talking about Durban roads not making sense, he says Cape Town has a road in the foreshore that was built
That's true.
halfway. So Durban has no.
But I mean, at least that's sexy. You know, it's big. It's like in the middle of town. It's like, ooh, where's it going to go? Are they going to finish it? Aren't they going to finish it? You know, Durban is just like those roads just end. And then once you're at the end of that road, you are lost forever. You go into it. Basically, you never come back from the end of that road. You know,
it's like a black hole.
Yes.
So LB says here, I deleted Facebook and Twitter for this reason. I don't need to be angry all the time. If you had to get rid of one of the social media channels, what would you get rid of? Which one would you get rid of first? Really? You think Facebook is the worst?
No, I just think it's the least interesting.
So, I mean, which one do you like the most?
I like them for different ones for different reasons. I think TikTok is the most entertaining. I think Instagram is where you get to see visually, like see people's lives. And Twitter is the funniest.
Is it the funniest?
It's the funniest. It's so funny. It's so good. It's so difficult. It's challenging. It's a challenging environment. But for me, like some of the funniest commentary on anything that's happening happens on Twitter and nowhere else.
Who do you really rate, since we're talking to you about comedy? I mean, who do you really rate in comedy as the big international stars in the world at the moment? Because it's changed so much over the last couple of years.
Who do I rate as comedians?
Yeah.
I mean, one of my all-time favorites of the big guys is Chris Rock. He's probably my favorite.
Amazing.
And then there are acts that I've been watching over the last couple of years who have just blown me away. Somebody like Ali Wong. If you haven't watched Ali Wong's 2 specials, you are just missing out on life. She is one of the most insanely funny people on earth. There's a comedian named Tig Notaro that I'm obsessed with. A lot, and all of these people are out there. I mean, there's a woman on I watch everything. I watch all the acts. Like I watch everything from 5-minute spots on, late night shows to Netflix specials. I watch it all. And there are just so many good gems out there. Like there's a woman named Janelle James who's on one of those short Netflix specials that are 15 minutes long that you would never have heard about. So funny. I mean, these are the people that I rate.
I love that. There's so many comedians who I've always, I've collected like comedy DVDs in the days when DVDs were a thing. Of those true greats, like I've always said Eddie Murphy is like the king of comedy, and I loved Billy Connolly and there were a couple of them who were really legendary at the time. George Carlin, obviously, and those guys. But I've got to say to you, like Chris Rock is probably still one of the most. He's stayed relevant for the longest, and he's so good.
Absolutely. But that's what happens when you're a comedian who stays working. You know what I mean? And constantly is out there working and engaging with people. I think that's what ends up happening.
Because I saw this new dude. I've got to find his name for you on YouTube. But there's this new kind of. I think he's an English comedian. But this guy was killing it, and I couldn't believe that I'd never heard of him before. And I think he's been around for about 5 or 6 years. And there are so many talented, brilliant comedians that are coming up now. I'll find his name for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so last week, do you remember the one thing that we said you must learn, Siya, is that you should learn the names of at least 5 different cheeses and learn something about wine so that you don't embarrass yourself when you're at some fancy thing and people suggest that you eat a certain cheese off a cheese board, or you got to know what you're dealing with. Otherwise, you could end up taking like a bite of something that's really gross. And trust me, I've done that. When you think, oh, that looks like a nice cheese, and you taste it, and it's like feet.
Can I tell you how I tried to put this into practice when I was flying back to Joburg and I was at the airport lounge? I went around. They have a selection of cheeses and crackers. I went around there going, yes. Then like 2 cheeses in, I couldn't pronounce anything anymore. So I thought, okay, abort mission. Go, leave, goodbye.
We've got to help you. I don't know what any of the cheeses are. I go to a cheese shop in Linden. It's incredible. And have all local cheeses there. So I go there especially. And I always want to buy cheese, but I don't know the difference. I only know, does this taste good or doesn't this taste good? And so then I have to taste the cheeses, but I don't know what I want. So then when I come in there, it's always just feel a lot of cheese pressure,
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't know anything about cheese, and I don't like. I've got such
But I love it
boring.
so much.
I've got such boring taste in cheese that I suppose maybe it's just not meant to be for me. But
I'm adventurous. I like lots of different kinds of cheeses. You can't scare me with a cheese.
well, then maybe you could teach us a few things because it sounds like you probably know way more than me. So
I don't,
today,
but you have to have an adventurous palate.
and for this week, you're going to do something very different. For this week, you're going to arbitrarily tip abnormally. So if you deal with anybody, and this could be like the person who takes your trolley away at the shops, it could be a waiter or waitress, it could be someone who a security guard at the mall, it could be anybody, and you're going to tip abnormally. So you're going to tip based on nothing to do with their actual service. You're just going to give them an abnormally large tip or some arbitrary number, whatever you've got in your pocket, and you're going to do it based on completely ridiculous things. Like you'll see that they shine their shoes, or you'll see that they've got a neat and tidy uniform, or you'll see that they smile extra broadly when they see you. In other words, have nothing to do with what they're actually there to do. You're going to tip them abnormally, and you see what happens. Then you're gonna might even have a conversation.
How much are we talking about? Like,
well,
Bill
if
Gates
you've got
giving away half his fortune?
No. Whatever so today, or for at some occasion this week, because we're not all doing things every single day anymore, because we're in mostly at our houses. But you're going to go out of your way to give them like half of what's in your wallet at that stage. For no good reason. You're not going to explain it. You're not going to tell them why. You're just going to do it. You're just going to give a whole lot of extra money to someone for no good reason. How about that?
Here's a question that's just popped up around that. What if I have already bought someone their groceries, including a Pepsi? Does that count? That's from
Who's that
listener.
from? Okay.
It's from Gapter.
Thank you.
I don't.
Oh, Gap. Yes, I've Gapter's messaged us before.
I don't know.
No, you
sometimes, that's a weird question, I guess, but I'd like to know the answer.
So it's not charity. It's just you have to give away money, and you're going to give it arbitrarily to someone who might not even deserve it. Even if they're rude to you, you have to give it to them. So you decide on who that person is this week, and you give them some money, and just see what happens. Okay. Could be quite interesting. All right, let's get into.
There's a comedian. Oh, sorry. Can I continue quickly?
No.
There's a comedian. One of my favorite comedians' names is Gary Gulman, and he talks about how somebody like Bill Gates will never know. There's one thing Bill Gates can't have that we all have, is that he'll never know what it's like to find a $50, well, let's say it's a 50 rand note in like a jacket pocket that he left behind. Like he'll never understand the joy of that feeling. Like for him to have that feeling, he would have to find like 1 billion rand somewhere, like that he had forgotten about.
That's a very good point. I wonder if he ever does find like money lying around and goes, "Oh, this is a bonus," because I still think you get a bit of a thrill no matter how much money you have.
So?
I think if you find some cash left lying around, I once found some in a jeans pocket, and I was like, "Yes!" It wasn't even a lot of money, but I was like, "This is good."
So
20 rand.
It happens when winter comes around. Now's the time for that. You start bringing out your old jackets.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so a couple of things in the news this morning. Matsela Koko, who used to be at Eskom, says he wants us to all please stop the Koko hunt. He feels like it's a witch hunt against him. He feels like the whole State Capture Commission, the whole purpose of it is to get him. Nothing like his ego to bring us down on a Tuesday morning. Former Eskom CEO Matsela Koko on Monday said the State Capture Commission must stop what he called the Koko hunt, or targeting him in their investigations. He was back at the commission where he said it must be aware of people who say things about him just to make him look bad. All those people who are just wandering around with a chip on their shoulder about Matsela Koko. He's done nothing, he said. Why should he be victimized like this? Me. I mean, do we even need to hear more about
Well, I haven't even heard of this Koko guy, okay, or whatever. So there.
Yeah, so he's feeling sorry for himself, so let's ignore him. Cyril Ramaphosa has defended government's efforts on acquiring vaccines. He said government leaders have not been sleeping on the job, despite losing what he acknowledged is a little time. So have you heard how many people actually have vaccines in the country? Because at this
I feel
stage,
like
they've
it's
only
150,000 or something.
they've only really given it to medical people. Have you even heard from anyone that you know who's personally received a vaccine?
Yes.
You have. Tell us.
Yeah, somebody who works in a public hospital has gotten the
Oh, yeah?
vaccine.
A doctor?
A doctor, yeah, a doctor.
Oh.
That's all.
And how
That's all
long?
I got.
How long is that? That's all you got. Sia, have
It's
you
been a
heard of
while.
any?
Oh, actually, no, sorry, another person. My biokineticist has also gotten it last week.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
That's all right.
I did sort of admit that I'm getting vaccine envy now. When I see, I didn't even know that I know so many doctors or people who are related to doctors, for example. Now everyone is posting about it. I want to get it now as well. But I don't think we spoke about this yesterday, but did you see over the weekend, I think it was Discovery, who released a statement alluding to the fact that they could vaccinate X amount of people. They have the supply to vaccinate X amount of people every day.
Well, not the supply. Okay, sorry, Sia. I got a letter from Adrian Gore. Okay, he emails me personally.
Yes.
You wrote, yeah. Tell us.
Yeah, because it says there, "Dear Gilli," and then at the end it's signed Adrian Gore. Those are. He writes me letters personally. He said that private companies still can't procure vaccines.
Yeah, that's true.
Only governments can. No, none of the vaccine companies will sell to private companies. But he was like, but if they could, though.
That's what it was.
If they could, though. But if they could, and when they can, though, we will. Like, he was like, I know what you're thinking, and we're thinking it too. And
well, someone called George Lunatic says that the number's somewhere around 200,000, but you're called George Lunatic. So how do we know how to, whether to believe you or not?
It's a reliable source.
He's not like a vaccine lunatic. He's something else lunatic. You know what I mean?
So apparently, according to the president, there's been growing criticism of the government's plan. He says, while he was touring the Aspen manufacturing facility in the Eastern Cape, that they are on track. He said, we're on target. We're accumulating more vaccines on an ongoing basis. And he said that 30 million vaccines had been acquired from the recently approved Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which has been used to inoculate thousands of healthcare workers as part of an implementation study. And he said he told reporters rather that negotiations with other producers were in their final stages. But it is really slow. And a lot of people are saying, look, at this rate, if we carry on inoculating people at this rate, it's going to take us like 5 years for everyone to get the vaccine. I want, if this means we don't have to walk around with masks anymore, if it means we don't have to socially distance anymore, if it means we can start opening up all the places that have been shut for the longest time, then I'm all for it, and I'll be in that vaccine. Yeah.
Me too.
And then this is an interesting story. The Transport Department has launched Easter road safety campaigns with a whole lot of new tech. I don't know how well these road safety campaigns at Easter work, but obviously we're worried because people take to the roads, they go away for the weekend on holiday, but a lot of people also go up to Maria for church services and so on. And
what is a campaign? What does a campaign consist of, do you think?
Well, in this case,
like posters.
They say they've got new law enforcement technologies that they're introducing, such as body-worn cameras worn by officers. Like in America, where actually where the cameras. They said that government was launching the campaign under a dark cloud after 6 people, including 2 toddlers, were killed at a weekend crash in the Free State. And this tragedy, they said, must remind us that we should be cautious when we're on the roads. The officials have introduced body-worn cameras. The deputy minister also handed over vehicles to the Northwest government to help strengthen law enforcement in the province. And they are putting up posters, which is something that government likes to do. They say,
I love a poster. Hey, I love a poster. I wish if I never see another poster, when I see a poster, I get so angry. I think about like the designer that got paid. I think about all the money that went into making a poster that goes, please drive safely. And people are like, drunk people are like reading that poster, and the letters are like getting interschmingled. It's like, what is the point of a poster? If I see a poster,
no, total waste of money. And they're saying things like, obvious things that we all know already, and that if you don't know, you really shouldn't be at the wheel of a car. Better late than never. Don't speed. We needed to hear that from government. That's such a great use of government money. And things like The livelihood of many families are in your hands. Don't speed.
That's what I always think when I'm about to speed. I think I'm going to speed now. And then what has happened is sometimes I go to like a public bathroom and then I see a poster that says the life of a family is in your hands, and I immediately stop speeding. It's incredible.
That's right.
It works.
Boris Johnson has joined more than 20 world leaders in calling for a new global settlement to help the world prepare for future pandemics. In an article for newspapers around the world, leaders including Macron of France, Angela Merkel of Germany have said COVID has posed the biggest challenge since World War II. Another pandemic or health crisis is a matter of not if, but when, they say. And the pandemic has shown that nobody is safe until everyone is safe. So they decided to all write a big letter together. And they've basically said they're going to build a multilateral system in the world to bring countries together and dispel the temptations of isolationism and nationalism and address the challenges. This is political speak. This is a bunch of politicians trying to make themselves useful after not one of them have particularly dealt with this in any really incredible way. I saw that even New Zealand is now having problems, despite the way they've been praised for the way that...
What problems are they having?
Well, apparently their hospital...
Like maybe two people had COVID.
Well, I think that, New Zealand's only got about 500 people in it. So for a hospital to be overrun, 10 people is like a lot. And then finally, Ghislaine Maxwell, who is Epstein's madam, the woman who was procuring women for him. She's had 2 new federal charges of sex trafficking and sex trafficking of a minor filed against her. The new charges introduce a 4th victim to the case against her. She's accused of recruiting an underage girl for sex with Epstein at his home in Palm Beach in Florida. There was no immediate comment on the new accusations from her lawyers. She's currently in jail in New York awaiting trial. And this makes all the charges... There were 6 and now there are 8. So it just keeps
it's all everybody can say whatever they want until there is an actual conviction. And then it's like, oh, no. There's some, it's very, very hard to deny a conviction.
Oh, yeah. And I think she must be one of the most hated people in the world. She did get her vaccine, by the way. We spoke about this the other day. Even horrible assholes get their vaccines. And I just want to play you this quickly. This is her brother, Ian Maxwell, in an interview on BBC Radio 4, saying, shame, she's losing her hair in prison. Take a listen.
Oh.
Oh, boy, hang on. No, wait. Now we got an ad. I can't believe these things are still playing. Just give me 5 seconds here to just sort out this ad. Yeah, so this is her brother, Ian Maxwell. They're actually a rich English family. And they, the father was a newspaper mogul, and they're quite well known in English social circles. So for him to be upset about his sister losing hair is not surprising.
Ghislaine has been in prison now for nearly 250 days and counting. She is in effective isolation in a cell that measures 6 foot by 9 foot and which includes a bed, concrete bed, and a toilet. There is no natural light. She is under 24-hour, round-the-clock surveillance.
Well, shocking. Truly shocking.
Yo, wait, what happened there?
Did it end? We can't hear it anymore.
Gareth, you're on mute. I thought, wait a minute.
We lost you, Gareth, because you know what? Nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that.
This is her brother busy moaning about how hard it is for Ghislaine Maxwell to be in jail and how difficult.
Shame.
And they are keeping her under extremely close scrutiny because of what happened to Jeffrey Epstein, the suspicious. So he's saying, it's terrible. She's got a concrete bed. She's just got a toilet. It's 6 by 6. She's losing her hair. And so if anybody was looking for someone to feel sorry for today, that her brother suggests Ghislaine Maxwell.
Oh, nice.
If you're trying to get out of bed, his voice is not the one you need to know. That can lull you back to sleep in 2 seconds.
All right, so those
People
are the
want to
things.
do horrible things, and then they don't want to sleep on a concrete mattress. You have to say to yourself, myself, if I'm going to traffic girls across the country,
Right.
to be raped and assaulted, can I then sleep on a concrete mattress? And these are questions you have to ask yourself.
Those are the tough questions. So those are the headlines for this morning, and we're going to cross to JJ Cornish now, I'm very happy to say. Jean-Jacques Cornish is a regular on our show. He comes to us every couple of days to give us an update on what's going on the African continent. JJ, it's nice to see you this morning, and it's not as if we don't have a lot to discuss today. So first of all, can we talk about Mozambique, please? Because a lot of people, including Siya, have suddenly become very anxious. Mozambique is right next door to us. And although Al-Shabaab used to be something we worried about in Kenya and Tanzania, and then later on the north of Mozambique, they're getting further and further south. And we need to know what's happening here because South Africans are even being killed. Hotels are being raided. And it seems that wave of violence is heading further and further south. Could be on our border at any time.
Well, to you, guys. Gareth, I've been listening to you for a little while now. With this new system, I can eavesdrop for a little while, and I just wanted to say I wanted to put a poster up saying, "Keep calm and eat gorgonzola." That would cover the last little bit. Mozambique is grown-up trouble for us. We can't go in alone. We've said it before. We couldn't, as South African soldiers, go in just about anywhere because we're in no state to do it. We have to have a collective operation there. Now, the ISIS or Al-Shabaab, in fact, the jihadi terrorists have been operating there since 2017 in one of the richest gas reserves in the world. Now, Total, the French company that is exploiting that, said a little while ago that they were holding up on that because of this terrorism. 1,500 people have been killed. These guys started with machetes, beheading people. And that was because they believed they were being marginalized. The fact is they're now very well armed and assisted by other terrorist groups, jihadi terrorist groups from around the world. We understand that there are as many as 12 South Africans fighting with the terrorists. Now, up there, Palma is the town that serves on the very northern border of Mozambique, a terribly long country, long like Chile, all the way up the coast. And it serves that part of the gas exploitation field, but nothing has come out yet to enrich the Mozambicans, which is, of course, one of the poorest countries on the planet.
Absolutely.
Now, until they can do that, the exploitation, until they can get that, the marginalization of the people, they cannot address. But the South Africans have been called in, others have been called in. We do have this SADC organ on peace and security, but SADC simply hasn't got the means to put in a force. Now, Americans have said they've sent in some specialists to do some training, but that hasn't worked thus far. Certainly the Mozambicans are quite unable to contain this. So what happened in Palma was there was this attack. Some analysts get very angry when we say that the jihadis overtook it. That doesn't seem to be the case. A number of South Africans were involved. I understand 43 have been found now, or are all accounted for. One, Adrian Nel, was killed. Now, the killing of a national means that South Africa is going to have a more muscular response. But does that mean that we will band together with other Africans? And even, I said SADC's not able to do it. Not even the African Union is, because putting boots on the ground costs a lot of moolah. And we don't have that. We don't have it South Africa, we don't have it as SADC, and we don't have it as the African Union. So if they're going to put in troops, then we're going to have to get that money from the United Nations in all likelihood.
And of course, the other embarrassing thing about this is that if we did send our military there, it might even be worse for us, not better, because they'd see how awful our military were, and they'd look at us and go, well, that's a prize worth taking. I saw... I saw some of the newspaper editors saying over the weekend that they didn't think it was a good idea for us to be too gung-ho here either.
No, absolutely. As occurred shortly after democracy in Lesotho, we were showed to be effectively a rebel at that point. Well, clearly our military is a little better now, but things like, our HIV, proportion of troops that are suffering from HIV, the number, for every pair of boots you put on the ground, you have to have something like 11 back home. And we simply don't have those numbers. We can't do it. We cannot be a peacekeeping force. We can send some troops to certain trouble spots in Africa. We have done it. But the point is, as soon as South Africa became democratic South Africa, many Africans said, here we go. These are the guys with the loot. They can help us out. Something like 75% of United Nations peacekeeping operations, military peacekeeping operations, involve Africa. So they need peacekeepers all over the place. And right now on our border, we have this very, very serious problem, and which is growing. And it's growing because of the increasing support, jihadi support for these people. They claim allegiance to Al-Shabaab, to ISIS, to others, and they are killing Mozambicans in great numbers, in disturbingly great numbers. Something has to be done. We can't do it. What about the African standby force? That hasn't actually eventuated, but it was supposed to have been set up for this purpose, to put in troops where necessary. But
AJ,
then again, when you have government... Sorry?
I need to understand here, because a lot of people are saying that really the whole Islamic side of this argument is really convenience for Al-Shabaab or for ISIS, whoever you want to call them, because they're really a criminal organization. They're trying to gain control of oil fields, of gas fields, of plunder. And really the jihadi part of it is a convenience, but it is also a spreading of the religion by the sword. And very many people are being converted at gunpoint, and if not converted, killed. So the helplessness that so many governments have felt in the face of this is related to both of those things, the criminal aspect and to the jihadi aspect of it. How do you think Mozambique's government are placed to deal with this? I mean, we know they're a very weak government. They haven't got any money. They are in hock to China, as we've discussed many times before. Is there anyone who can save them?
Well, the fact is the jihadis don't really get in until the people are very unhappy. And when people are unhappy, however you look at it, whatever you believe, it's for economic reasons. They are poor, they are being marginalized, and certainly the jihadis step in and exploit that. All over the world that is happening. And in Mozambique, that is the case. As I say, they started out, we're unhappy, we're being marginalized, you've got this gas, we're not feeling the effects of it. That's why they went at things with machetes. So when the jihadis came into the system, there's no doubt that there was an international cabal of people doing that. When with the Niger Delta, we're being exploited, say the people there. We're not getting any benefit from the petrol, the oil, and the environment is being raped by you, and that is why that has happened there. Now, the jihadis haven't managed to get in there to the extent that they have in Mozambique, but certainly Nigeria, which is literally half and half Muslim, half Christian, has huge problems maintain or trying in any way to restrain the jihadi influence, certainly up in the northeast of the country. So yes, your point about them exploiting it is absolutely germane. They are there, and they take every opportunity they can to use unhappiness. Now, what provoked 12 South Africans to go and fight there for the jihadis? Well, I mean, there's all sorts of social reasons for that, I've no doubt. But the fear is, with security analysts, that there's South Africans actually fighting for the Islamist terrorists in Syria, for example. So why, they've got drawn in, so they are being recruited and exploited. In the same way, I suppose, This is the Ghislaine Maxwell of political activism. You can get young, impressionable people and persuade them that they've got to go and fight for what they hold true, and that is happening. And then they return to South Africa, and that is when you really have to be frightened of them, as occurred, of course, in many Islamic countries around the world. When the Islamists came back, and certainly in Algeria was the case, they came back from fighting in Saudi Arabia and in the Maghreb part of the world, and there we have them coming back and bringing Algeria to its knees.
Can I ask a question, maybe a simplistic question?
Yes.
What is the end game for them? What is the thing that they purport to be their end game?
Well, I mean, is to create an Islamic world, to create Sharia law around the world. But to do that, it's going to cost them a lot of money. And so that is why they get in areas where there is oil, where there is gas, and try to get a hand on those reserves to make their fight, or to finance their battle for a Sharia world.
So it's in fact to finance the battle and not the other way around. They're not trying to get at the resources and the money through the method of recruitment or whatever it is.
Sort of 6 of one and half a dozen of the others. I haven't heard, I have to say, of people of Sharia fighters, jihadi fighters, making money and then going off and buying stretch limos. They keep fighting. So I would think assume it's the first part of it. They're there to finance their struggle for Sharia around the world.
It's an end justifies the means kind of situation. So, JJ, can we just quickly turn our attention, because I know we've got only a little bit of time here, to the Suez, because we've all heard about this huge problem with this ship that we were joking about earlier that's blocked the Suez Canal. Just tell us what the political implications of this might be, because you're an expert on Africa, and we all kind of forget that Egypt is part of Africa and that Suez Canal is a hugely important trade route. What do you think might happen as a result of this mishap, and what are the implications for countries like Egypt and even others in that part of Africa, Somalia and Ethiopia and so on?
When it was convenient for Egypt to forget they were part of Africa, they were happy to do it. Egypt is very much part of Africa, but it gets more, for example, from America in terms of aid than the whole of Africa put together. So Egypt is a very special case, and the Suez is the most special of cases. The Ever Given is now being sailed to the Bitter Lake, it's called. It's an offshoot of the Suez Canal. I went to the reopening of that canal in 2015. The Egyptians invited me when they widened it. Sadly, they didn't widen it at the point that the Evergreen attempted a U-turn or whatever it did. I don't know. You've seen that cartoon with the two balloon captions coming out. Bet you can't do a U-turn in the Suez Canal. And the other one says, "Hold my beer." But this has cost something like 225 million rands a day, the blockage. There are ships sailing down from the north already, and with the Ever Given out of the way while they tested for damage, the canal is effectively unblocked. There are about 400 ships waiting to go through it. Billions and billions and billions. 10% of the world's maritime traffic goes through there, and of course, 90% of goods are moved by sea in the world. Now, what happens is the very organizations we've just been talking about must be looking at that, rubbing their hands and thinking, aha, here's an opportunity. If they can block the Suez Canal, then you can imagine the havoc they could wreak. So security-wise, Egypt is going to have to bolster its security there, and the world is going to have to help with that. In terms of salvage, they didn't have the big tugs. They used 14 huge tugs to move that boat. They didn't have them to hand. They had to have standby salvage operations to prevent or to avoid or obviate this kind of problem ever recurring. The thing is now, the world is going to have to look at all the maritime problems facing it and review them in the light of what has just happened. You know, those ships that went around certainly have to face the storms on the Cape of Storms, renamed the Cape of Good Hope. But worse, those came from the north, would have had to go around the Gulf of Guinea, which is below Nigeria, which is the worst area for piracy on the high seas. So these are problems that the world has to face. But to say we're not going to have the Suez Canal blocked again is like saying we won't get another pandemic. I think this is something that has opened the eyes of the security authorities, and certainly I think we're going to have to do something very special and very radical to avoid this sort of thing happening again.
Well, JJ, I'm afraid we're out of time for this morning. I know there was Rwanda on the agenda, and we'll talk about them next time we see you. But thank you very much again for your insights in terms of not only what's going on right next door in Mozambique, but what has been a great source of material for comedians like Gilli over the last couple of days with this ship got stuck in the Suez. It's good to see you. Thank you, JJ Cornish. This is African Analysis, which is brought to you by the Joburg Business School. And JJ Cornish is our expert when it comes to that. It is 7 o'clock. When we come back, we will have a whole lot more for you. Gilli Apter's with us, Siya Sangweni, me, you, and everybody else. You know what to do. 079-748-2090 if you want to be part of the conversation.
Becoming a politician isn't the only way to get a little something on the side. Have a great economic quarter regardless of the state of the nation, with a Nando's quarter chicken and any single side for just 49 Rand. Nando's. Fire it up.
Your love is so sweet, babe. So put it on me, babe. Can we take it higher? What do you desire? Let me see that fire, fire, ay, ay, ay. So sweet, babe. So put it on me, babe. Can we take it higher? What do you desire? Let me see that fire, fire, ay, ay, ay.
This week on Auto Central. So what car ticks all the boxes? It needs to be capable off-road, on-road, stylish, comfortable, and all-rounder. In your opinion, does this exist?
So on the way to the studio today, I thought about this intensely. And the short answer for me, I think a lot of people will be like, the perfect car doesn't exist because, you know, everyone has, you know, different preferences. But I believe that anything can be quantifiable.
CliffCentral.com on a Tuesday morning. We are joined by Gilli Apter as our special guest today, back by popular demand, because when she was on the other day, people loved her so much they wanted to hear more from her. Siya Sangweni is here too. And we are ready to talk about pretty much anything that's on your mind this morning. We had JJ Cornish just a second ago, putting the fear of God into us with these jihadis who live right next door. I mean, this is like having an apartment and you hear banging on the walls and you just go, I don't know if I should be reporting this or if I should just shut up because it could get worse. And that's exactly what's going on there. So already one South African
imagine what it's like to live with JJ Cornish, like every morning. You would just wake up into a panic attack every day. And he's so chilled. How is he so chilled out?
But
when he knows so much.
He's been to these places. I mean, he's been to Libya when Gaddafi was the dictator there. He's been to Nigeria a couple of times. He's been to African countries that we haven't even heard of. He's been to Guinea-Bissau. He was telling us the other day about the Gambia and this tiny little country which is based like along a river, and it's only about as thick as it's got like a kilometer or two on either side of this river, and it's a fully fledged sovereign country. They're famously a country that has a 4-day week, not a 5-day week. So they don't believe in. I think that's quite a good reason to go there if there ever was.
I'm moving there. But if I was JJ Cornish, I would just be screaming all the time if I had that information in my brain. I would just wake up screaming and go to bed screaming.
Speaking of a 4-day week, this is a 4-day week, so we've only really got tomorrow and Thursday, and then there's a nice long weekend.
True. April is our experiment of 4-day weeks.
That's right. We get Friday off this week, and we get Monday off as well as a bonus. So if you think that's all, there is more, because on the 27th of April, we get Freedom Day, and then on the 1st of May, we get Workers' Day as well. So lots of holidays coming up this year. It's a good one. I
don't think we need them, but,
No, as if you could tell the difference.
We need them?
Everything's a holiday.
Some of us are not, working every single day. And I'm just thinking, like, after a year of a lot of people not having any work, I just don't think we need so many public holidays for once in our lives.
Yeah, you're not going to find any argument with me. Siya, of course, would like a holiday every other day.
I would like a holiday in my life, but it needs to be paid for. These are holidays are not really the whole story. You know what I mean?
Correct. All right. So Sia's got a funny story for us about a girl who caught her cheating boyfriend after, listen to this, his smartwatch showed that he had burnt 500. Yeah, his smartwatch said you burnt 500 calories at 2 a.m. And she was like, you're not really going for a jog at 2 a.m., are you? So she figured out that he'd been cheating on her. This has got to be one of the most stupid things technology has done to people, is it's made it impossible for us to lie about fairly obvious things, right?
That's so good. I was going to say, I thought that maybe she saw a message come up on the watch or whatever. You know what I mean? From the person he was having an affair with. I didn't think she would be. Women are so good at like deducing, anything that leads to cheating. We are good at like making those connections.
But I mean, how silly and what else could you really be doing at 2 a.m.?
I don't know, but she's brilliant. I think that's genius. I would just think like, he's overworked his brain or something.
Her name is Nadia Essex, and she used to live with her then boyfriend. But this was an evening where he was out. So that was already like, someone might be on edge because of something like this. And she said that they have, their Fitbits are synced together. So they can track their devices, they can track, they have a fitness tracker, so they know how much they're losing, what activity they're doing, and this is how it all came to be. So she said it was around 2 a.m. when she got an unusual notification just after he came home late that evening. So she thought, this is a little weird, that between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning, he burned over 500 calories. And so with that strange calorie burn, she deduced really it is not the best time to.
No, let me tell you what's
work
happening here.
out.
No, let me tell you
What
what's
do you-
happening here. She's jealous of his calorie loss. That's what she's really upset about. They were fitness partners. He went and lost 500 calories without her in the middle of the night. I think that's what's really going on here.
Have you?
I would be so pissed.
Have you ever noticed? I mean, you talk about they sync their Fitbits. Have you seen these couples who have like joint Facebook accounts?
Yes. What is
yeah.
that? What is
yeah.
that?
Please try and answer it for me, because I've seen this before. They've got like, William and Mary, what's his name, and then you go to their profile and it's a picture of both of them, and it's their combined Facebook account. I do not understand this at all. There's got to be some serious suspicion going on there that people who are just not comfortable with each other doing their own thing. They're joined at the
I also
hip.
think it's people like, some people are like, have a fear of social media. So they're like, let's do this together, because they don't have the guts to have their own account.
I hadn't thought about that. That's a good explanation, but I think it's probably quite dangerous long term. You can't have a joint social media account. Well, I just think it seems to me to indicate that there's some lack of trust in the relationship. They don't build profiles for two people. You're meant to have your own profile, and you could say in your profile that you're married to X or Y, and you post all your pictures together, and if you've got stuff going on. The fact that you need to have a joint account, maybe one of them has already cheated or done something, and it just seems to me like you're trying a bit hard there. This is our joint.
I agree.
I don't know why I feel like I have that phase in me. And it's
I was about,
the
moment you were nodding, I was like, this is exactly the kind of thing Siya would do. There's no question in my mind.
It is so in me. It is going to happen.
Why would you do it? Is it a control thing?
No, just like something that just has to happen. I think I'll be that nauseatingly annoying person. I will be that person who will not even care about, what people think when I match with my partner. I think you need matching clothes. You need a joint Facebook account. No. I'll be that person who now I won't even be able to make decisions anymore. It's now like,
I don't believe you. We never even know. We never even know when you're dating someone. You don't make a big deal. Yeah, you are discreet. You kind of just get on with your life, and we sort of occasionally you'll drop some hint in the show that you went out on a date or whatever. But we never know more than that about you. I can't see you having a joint Facebook account. I think this is
no. You know what's going to happen. Sia's going to make the person share his joint account, but he's going to have his own account on the side. I know exactly what's going on here. Okay, he only wants the other person to be surveilled. But he's going to keep his own account
like that.
Well, Sana, I think, is hitting on you here, Gilli. She says, Gilli, oh my gosh, you're gorgeous. Your hair is so lush, and look at that jawline, girl. Hot damn.
Thanks.
Ooh.
Oh my, I'll take it. With a compliment in the morning. It's like drugs.
Jerry says it's fucking lame having one page on Facebook together. So he's obviously on our side there, Gilli. Annette says it's creepy and it's nauseating when people have joint Facebook. Yeah. Older couples tend to have a joint account, says LB.
That's because it takes two older brains to operate one social media account.
True.
Well, I just wonder how it works, because the whole thing is set up for individuals. It's not set up for couples. So, when you say, does it say our favorite books, or does it say my favorite books, or does it say my?
No, they have to operate as one.
Yes.
Okay.
They have to operate as one, and it's quite. I do think that is a little bit codependent, and I think that some therapy needs to happen.
Yeah, they probably need to talk about it.
You're right there, but also for some people it's comforting, and I only say that looking at my parents. Yes, it's sweet, but I'm also of the mind that sometimes, joking aside, it does get annoying. But my parents always say, oh no, like my mom will say, oh no, he's my best friend. I'm like, no, get a life, go out and see other people. But they enjoy that. They enjoy being together all the time, and they enjoy doing things together. You can't ask my dad about my mom or vice versa without it being well, yeah, let me ask your mom what she wants to do. It's like no one can make even an individual decision at this point. So
They've become
for them,
A unit.
Yeah, it's like a symbiosis. They can't actually do stuff without each other.
yeah.
My
Yeah, I
parents
think-
are also a unit like that, and my mother gets very upset. For example, my dad goes for walks every morning. My dad goes for a walk every morning. And sometimes she wants to go with him, but sometimes he escapes without her. And that's the word she uses. He escapes.
And she doesn't like that, huh? She feels left behind and alone.
She feels left behind. She doesn't like it at all.
Listen, I do think it's sweet though when older couples have been together for such a long time that they are in that sort of situation. It's also kind of dangerous because if something happens to one of them, the other one falls in a complete heap. You got to be careful with
I
that.
worry about that stuff a lot. I worry about that stuff.
Absolutely. Well, we were going to talk to Bulelani Balabala this morning because he's got some interesting stuff to tell us about the township economy. And as you know, Bulelani's been part of the Cliff Central family for a long time, and we spoke to him not so long ago on my TV show as well. He's running this Township Entrepreneurs Initiative, which is incredible. And I've actually been to one or two of them in Tembisa, where you have people who come up with brilliant business ideas, and Bulelani introduces people to each other, helps them market their companies. And there's some very, very interesting stuff going on that I wanted you to hear about this morning. He just told us, though, that he is having some power outages and low connectivity, which is not unusual. It's not unlike what we were having last week on the show. So we probably won't speak to him today, but we will speak to him in the next couple of weeks about what he's doing inside South Africa's what they call informal economy, the township economy, which is really a lot bigger than everybody thinks. And it's where all the action is. So if you want to know about that, we will get Bulelani on at some point in the not too distant future. So this is interesting. Sandra says that it's a bit ageist of us to say that older couples have a joint account. So do you think ageism is a thing? I sometimes find myself saying stuff that I suppose you could consider ageist. Is it in the same category as racist or sexist or homophobic or transphobic or any of those things? Because ageism is just something that's inevitable, right? And aging is something that's inevitable. I think that older people do tend to look down on younger people, and younger people tend to ridicule older people. Isn't that just part of what happens?
Good point.
I mean, I don't think it's as bad. I don't think there's any violence or something as a result of ageism. And what happens is everyone's always experiencing it to some degree, I find. When I say people, I'm talking about people maybe who are in their 70s, but I've heard people refer to me as an old person.
Have you ever...
You're an old person.
No, like a 20-year-old will say...
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I hate it when in Afrikaans culture, a lot of people say oom and tannie. When,
I was about to say, the first time somebody called me tannie, I nearly fell over dead. And you know what the worst is? The worst is it wasn't a little child. It's the child's mother. Who's like, say hello to the tannie. Like,
yes.
Bitch, who's the tannie here?
I completely agree. So if you're just 1 year older than someone in most Afrikaans families, they call you oom or tannie. So it can get very, very scary for you. And I remember the first time it happened to me, I was also horrified. It's like, no, you're not going to have to call me that. And there's some parents who insist that their kids call someone auntie this or uncle that if they're friends of theirs. And some people like to call their parents by their first names. So I don't know which one's more ageist. I'm not sure which one is correct, but I don't like the idea of people calling me oom. It's not a good thing.
Sorry, y'all. This is not
the end of me.
This is not the conversation I'm going to be part of right now.
What are you trying to say?
One of these days,
you tannie, Siya. Okay,
it's going to happen. It's going to happen, and then you're going to fall apart. Siya, you're suddenly going to realize, like, I'm the oldest person in this particular crowd, and it's not going to go well.
Siya, how old are you?
20. Oh, geez. I actually forgot for a split second. They're 26.
He's
26.
15.
Yeah. See, I still got it right and still got it tight.
Still got it. Still got it right. Still got it
Well,
right. I like that.
No, look,
I'm going to use that for other things.
Sandra's letting us know she's 70. She has a Facebook account, Instagram, and Twitter. Yeah, but Sandra, then you're the exception to the rule. I mean, my parents, they don't have any of those things, and I'm really happy that they don't because.
Well, that's better. My parents have them, and then I'm tech support.
No, you see, that's not, so. It depends. I think Sandra might be one of those cool people who knows how to use those things, but I know, like, my parents don't need to have an Instagram or, I just don't see it going well.
With some people, it's a little justified, though. When you're being ageist, I feel like it is justified. My mother, for example, she still hasn't had the proper hang of something like WhatsApp or something like Facebook. For her, she's gone through, and not even gone through because these accounts are still there. She has about 8 different Facebook accounts. No kidding. Because I think sometimes she'll think she's logging into accounts, but while she's creating a new one, or then with one she's forgotten her password, so she can't even do that recovery thing. So she'll just create a new one. When it comes to WhatsApp, she'll think she's updating her status, her WhatsApp status, but instead
my
she's
parents are quite
updating
good.
her profile picture.
My parents are quite good, but the problem with my parents, especially my mother, is that they are now so into social media and technology that they think that it can do things that it can't. You know what I mean? So like they overestimate what the potential of the apps are. So sometimes my mother will be like, "How do I get this TV show that I was watching on my iPad to play in my car?" I'm like, well, first you got to trade in your Toyota, Mom.
Yeah, listen, also, there's the big danger, and this is a serious part of this, is like when Siya says his mom can't work out, which Facebook account she's on and how to retrieve a password. This is how a lot of scammers and criminals get hold of so many older people, because they're not familiar with the technology, and then they, clear out their bank account, or they get their credit card details or something like that. And there's a lot of danger in that. You got to actually watch your parents if they're not like Sandra. I mean, Sandra sounds like she's pretty cool with this stuff.
On top of it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm trying to also just find examples here of my mother, Shame, and how she texts. She's usually a good texter, but punctuation isn't her thing when she's texting. I think to go in and find symbols and commas and full stops is a lot. So one has to read over her text 2 or 3 times for you to piece together, oh, this is where full stop should be, and this is the start of a new sentence. Shame. You see, it's little things like that where I think, it is justified to judge.
Some people would say we're being very ageist because there are older people who really have, they've figured out all this stuff. In fact, they might have been ahead of the rest of us on the curve, and they're good at things like emojis, and they know how to use GIFs and all of that stuff. But there are others who, listen, I mean, Siya, even setting up the TV show, there are lots of older people who are as good as 20-year-olds on like Zoom and Skype and that kind of thing. And then there are those ones who are totally technophobic and have no idea what's going on.
Gosh,
I think we have to. Sometimes we have to get rid of conventions. I've been recently accused of hating question marks because I forget to put question marks on the end of sentences. I don't have time for a question mark. You understand my tone when I'm asking you a question, don't you?
You have to read your mind. The niece says her mother is more technologically advanced than she is.
Wow.
Yeah, I suppose. Maybe that's a good
Impressive.
point. Dogoza says, the security guard
dangerous.
The security guards complex that I live in, which are grown-ass people in their 20s, call me Booty, and I'm only 31. It's horrible. I started thinking that I look old. Well, imagine how you're going to feel when they start calling you Kehla. Or
it's a slippery slope, Dogoza.
Yeah, that's going to happen to you, man. And because they do, like in Zulu culture, there's mfana, and then there's what's the one for uncle?
Malume,
and then there's the older who are the elders, and then they're the very old people, and they actually call you those. Yeah, so they'll call you, like Malume Siya, and then you're like, oh no. That's very similar to Afrikaans culture in that way.
Yeah.
They also
I would like to just not be a tannie. Anything that gets me to not be a tannie, please. Please.
What do you see, Gilli? If someone calls you tannie, how do you picture that? What do you picture tannie as being?
It's a very good question that I could get into trouble for describing.
I want to know what's in your head. Like, if you see a tannie, is it some old silver hair in a bun?
Yeah, grey hair, bun, big, slow, friendly, maybe, kind,
Wearing a floral print dress.
Floral with maybe a knitted cardigan that she knitted herself.
Oh, bless.
And I don't want to knit any jerseys.
That's hilarious.
Big and slow. That's a dangerous.
I just feel like it judges me by my age and not the content of my character. Do you know what I mean?
Oh.
Yeah. No, I got you.
Martin Luther King Jr.
Young people are also not great with technology. They're fodder for scamsters, says Andrea. I think he's right. That's not an age-specific thing. I mean, lots of people get taken advantage of, no matter how technologically advanced they are. I mean, Greg, who works with us at Cliff Central, he's easily the most, advanced technical brain that I've ever encountered in my life. And he, to his surprise, to all of our surprise, even he got on a Zoom call with people who he thought he was meeting who were legit about the business. And these people managed to figure out how to hack into our Facebook accounts. So it could happen to anyone. You could be a really, really smart person who knows exactly what's going on, and they'll figure out a way to get you.
This sounds like you're describing what can happen on dating apps as well. People scam you, bro. They steal your hearts, but...
Oh, wow. I mean, really, I must tell you, I know somebody who's also not stupid, and she went on one of these dating apps, and she fell in love with this dude who lives overseas, and she was totally taken by him. I mean, for 6 months, she was convinced she'd found the love of her life.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept promising her he was going to come and visit. And every time he was going to come and visit, there was a problem at the airport, or there was this, or there was that. Then she was going to go and visit him, and he was going to buy her the ticket. And then there was a problem, and there was this, and there was that. There was always some excuse. And it turned out this guy was a total fraud. Total fraud.
But
this can happen in real life too. I have a friend who this happened to in real life. The guy kept telling her that his father owned like an island and all this stuff, and she believed him in real life. So I'm just saying.
No, this happened.
Some people are just asking for it. Like, just get your affairs and shit in order. Don't be a nonsense.
Would that never happen to you, Siya? Maybe you're a scammer. Have you scammed people for love?
Siya's probably he's catfishing people right now. That's part of what he's
right now. We think he's talking to us. He's actually got his 7 burner Facebook accounts and like Tinder accounts, and he's just scamming people left, right, and center, stealing hearts, money, boats.
I'll tell you what Siya used to do. Siya used to have his own show called Untapped Talent.
Oh, yeah, we go with this conspiracy.
It meant to be like actors or musicians or singers or people who had a specific comedians, anybody who had a talent, and he would give them a platform on Cliff Central. It was his show, so we let him do whatever he wanted. And he would bring people on. It was funny, though. He always just brought really good-looking guys on his show. And nobody could work out exactly what was happening until like 10 episodes in. Siya was only inviting really good-looking guys.
That was such a good scam.
We kind of clicked, so he's using the show to find dates, which is what he was doing.
I love that. That is a real dating platform. Congratulations.
That show was for great, genuine.
Yeah. We eventually,
celebrated.
Instead of calling it Untapped Talent, we eventually changed the name of it to Tapping the Talent with Siya Sandhu. JP says that when he thinks of funnies, he thinks of ladies in bloomers. And Basitsana says she sees Sally Spectra hair when somebody says tannie. Like Sally Spectra was that woman from Bold and the Beautiful with the very big, very teased hair. Yeah.
Hey, talking about age and growing older, here's something that I'm quite excited to get my hands on and watch. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've heard or seen buzz around the new, excuse me, the new Tina Turner documentary.
Oh yeah, I know
Oh,
exactly.
I haven't, but I'm dying to see that.
I
Yeah.
love Tina. Did you hear what she said? She released this and she said, "I'm tired. Here it is. This is my last word. Now leave me alone." So
And I think
she's
that
over
is so cool. That's so badass to say, yeah, that's it. Like, there's nothing else for me to say. She's officially retired, and I believe her. Not like some people who call it a retirement or a final tour just so that they can rack up some money, and then 3 years later they come back with another retirement
Yeah.
tour. But she was really done.
Barbara Streisand has had like 14 final tours, and then she suddenly decides, oh no, I can do another one. But this
Right.
Tina Turner, she's an incredible woman. I mean, we all know about her early life, and then the fact that she had this horrible relationship with Ike Turner,
Oof.
who was a
Yeah, I mean, that movie, do you remember that movie? Was it called What's Love Got to Do with It? With
Yes.
Angela Bassett playing her. Oh, it left a huge impression. Huge.
unreal.
Oh.
And the real Tina Turner is every bit as fiery, and had to put up with all of the horrible things that you see in that movie. And she, throughout it all, kind of held her dignity. She was such an incredibly strong woman, and she's talented as all hell. And when she'd done all of her big movies and her big concerts in the 80s, she just decided she'd had enough. She found she found love. She married this dude and moved to Switzerland. And she's been living
legend.
ever since. She's married to this extremely wealthy man, but she's got all of her own money as well. And apparently she doesn't do anything except maybe occasionally go to the shops. And she lives in this exquisite little Swiss village. And yeah, she's and
that's my dream, to be super talented and then say to somebody, be in court and just have one of those courtroom scenes where I go like, you can have it all. All I want is my name. And then walk out into the sunset and go to Switzerland. Buy handbags.
Well, they've offered her
Call it a day.
they've offered her hundreds of millions of dollars to go on tour again, and she's just refused every time. She won't even do interviews anymore. I think the last big one she did was with Oprah a long time ago. Siya, you'll know because you watch every Oprah interview ever. But I think that was the last big interview she did, and she's just said no more. This is her final word. This is the documentary. Now leave me alone.
And I know it's a little morbid to make this comparison, but somewhat whenever I hear of someone who has some sort of a fatal condition or something going on, I always think it's quite nice in a weird way to know that your life is coming to an end, to really just close it off properly, to say like, I'm going to say what I have to say, I'm going to handle all of my affairs. And that's the point I feel like Tina's in. She's had the career, she's released all of the songs, she retired from there, and now she says, she has a lot of health issues right now. She had a kidney transplant, she's had some form of cancer. There were two other major things that she has as well right now. And she doesn't think that she'll be alive for very long after this. And so this is her final word.
Just want to go out in style.
And
I
she's
told you guys
also
what
a
I'm
person
doing
who,
just before I'm going to die.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to call everyone I know into an adjacent room to where my deathbed is, and then call them in one at a time, and then tell them what I think of them.
Oh, right. Forgot about
that.
Yeah, that's going to go down really well. You know what they're going to do then? They'll all gather in the adjacent room after you've said your say. And they'll say,
listen, I've got a plan for this. I know what you're thinking. They might organize, and attack, but I have planned other adjacent room. They come in through one room, like the bank. They're going to go out a separate door. Okay, they don't get to congregate after this. I've thought this through.
I'll tell you what, at your funeral, they're not going to be saying, "Oh, we're sad Gilli's gone," because they'll all see each other at the funeral again. And they'll go, "That bitch."
I know, but I'll be gone.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, I love what Siya was saying just now about how you kind of you tie up your whole life and you put a little bow on it, and you can say goodbye in a very dignified way. And really, Tina Turner, I think she's lived her whole life like that, and I think she's amazing. She's one of the people in the world who when everyone, you could listen to her music and you get the same impression. But when I think about the personality of that woman, I'm just blown away by what a success and what a dignified creature she is. I love her to pieces.
And then, Sandra, this isn't to you particularly, but I'm just going to compliment older people and say there's also something great about older people who just don't care anymore, and they'll just speak their mind and call a thing a thing. Like the snippets that I've seen with this Tina documentary, she speaks very candidly about, well, I was just doing all of these shows for the money. And, a lot of it, I was just over it. But up until I had enough money to know that I can survive for the rest of my life, that's why I stopped. And she says it wasn't a good life, but this is her life. It wasn't pretty with all of the abuse and, her health issues.
Nothing's personal. She's just very pragmatic about it. And old people also are so honest because they don't really care about whether they impress you or not. Sort of like Gilli telling
I don't know,
people
but, there's also some negative things to that. My dad told me a story. He was at a funeral and there were he's very tall, and he was standing and there were two like old ladies drinking tea. It was the funeral of a person who had passed away at maybe 95 years old. So these ladies were about around that age. They were his friends. And there were two ladies who were just standing there. He was just standing there doing absolutely nothing. And one of them turned to him and said, "You know what your problem is? You're too tall." I mean,
what are you going to do about it? That's outrageous.
Saying, you don't need to tell everyone the truth about everything for no reason.
Well, this is what you want. So Abigail says this is quite an interesting thing on that woman tannie thing, and calling people uncle or malume or whatever. Abigail says in the so-called colored community on the Cape Flats, when you get called mummy, it doesn't gel well with me. So obviously that's happened to her. Mummy. Yeah, and auntie.
Mummy is
that's
any
quite
form of mommy, auntie, tannie.
Yeah, if I'm not related to you, don't be calling me any of those things. Jared says, I listened to a podcast about fishing at the end the security expert admitted that once he got scammed, just showing how legitimate these scammers can look. Yeah, man, I'm telling you, there's some dodgy people out there. Woody says, like going to America where the king wants to have his funeral while he's alive and then die during the funeral. Oh,
Firstly,
man,
it's called Coming to America, Woody.
Yes.
Okay, jeez, don't come here with quotes and then misquote the movie that's been around for 20 years.
Have you seen the new one yet?
I have.
I haven't. I've got to go and see it. I love that first one. Coming to America has got to be one of the movies that influenced me most as a kid, and I'm just engendered like the love I have for Eddie Murphy in ways
I mean, I would say that I've watched them both recently. You can hear there's a bit of an echo on me for some reason.
Sorry.
I watched them both recently, and I have to say, you are forgetting the first movie. You don't remember. It's very funny for the first 40 minutes, and then it's not that funny after that, I have to tell you.
Oh, what do you mean?
And I love Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, maybe that's right. Listen, a lot of stuff dates very badly, hey?
Yes.
So,
and then I watched the new one, and the new one won't tell you what happens. But I think you might be disappointed. You know why?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
The plot is interesting and funny and far-ranging, and there's lots of great cameos, and we've got some South African stars in that movie, which is incredible. Nomzamo's in that movie, and she doesn't play a small role, by the way. She has a major plot line in that film. Trevor Noah's in the film. It's crazy. But Eddie Murphy is not funny in the movie. He doesn't get to be funny.
Yeah, you see, I always respected him in the same way that Tina Turner kind of left the music scene. For a long time, Eddie didn't do any movies, and for a long time, he wouldn't do any comedy. And I always thought like he was the king because he knew when to quit. It's like Dave Chappelle did the same thing, you know.
I don't think that's the same thing. You know, I listened to an interview with him recently. Do you know that he did his last stand-up when he was 28? He had been doing it for almost 10 years. He started when he was a teenager, and he stopped when he was 28. And I think that's way too young. And in fact, he had a stand-up tour planned for last year, because he decided that if he was going to retire, he didn't want his last work to not be good. And he was aware that the films that he had been making were not his best work. And he thought, I want to go out with a bang. He wants to make a movie. He wants to do, there was some other thing he wanted to do, which he's done. And then he was going to go on a stand-up tour. And that was set for 2020. And he's postponed it. He still is going to do it, he says.
Sure.
Wow.
Well, sometimes you don't want to go over the finish line. Like if you've had a great career, sometimes it is better to quit while you're ahead. There are numerous examples of that. And I mean, obviously Tina is the one that we're talking about this morning, but there are also those people who they just don't know when to stop. And then eventually everybody gets sick of them. And that I think must be the worst thing you can do to your career. That's just got to be the worst, especially if you are just doing things for as well.
In slightly unrelated news, I've been watching the oddest toing and froing happen. Mike Tyson is allegedly going to come back and do one big boxing match. He's 53 or 54 years old. Yeah. He shouldn't do that.
How many comebacks have there been now?
No, it is just going to... At 54 years old, you are going to get knocked out, Mr. Tyson. And then that's what we'll
he's going to do something outrageous. You know what I mean?
It's going to ruin his legacy.
I don't know how you top ear biting, but still.
Yeah. He's so if you listen to Mike Tyson in interviews, and he's done a few of them recently, he does these, podcasts. He's got his own show and everything, and he's so addled. I mean, like the guy's really, he struggles. He struggles to keep, to stay on a subject. He's not all there, and he's taken a lot of drugs in his life, and he's been hit in the head a lot of times. So he's in no position to be making these decisions. It's really not.
He needs a better management team.
A hit to the head at 54. Ooh, yikes, that's tough. Look, I think he's sort of doing it for the money because it's rumored that he'll get $25 million just based on this fight alone. So I think, one knock to the head and I have to spend the next month in an ice bucket versus 25 million. I think it's worth it, but also not good for your legacy.
Would you do it? Yeah, would you get knocked in the head for $25 million?
Not a chance.
Yeah.
Not for $25
million, Gareth.
$25 million, but you might not be able to speak again. You might drool the whole time.
Let's say, okay, you recover, but you have one eye and you can still talk, but you can't taste food. $25 million? What's your price for this? I mean, honestly.
Well, Gilli, firstly, Mike Tyson and talking already has been debatable. So he's on the back foot there.
Good point. I suppose if you've been knocked out before, you're not so scared of being knocked out again.
No. Well, someone says here that Mike Tyson and his tiger should have a fight. That would be worth watching.
I'd watch that.
And Niku says that you should watch him exercising. He's an animal. And I mean, apparently he's really ripped to shreds, according to LB. He's ripped to shreds and he looks better than ever. He did a fight within the last year. So he's no slow coach, no loser. Maybe that's a good point to take in there as well. He's probably fitter than you and me, Siya.
Here's another thing, though. You're on the outside, perhaps you might not look 54, but there are certain things on the inside that are definitely 54 years old. There's one tiny random bone. Yes, because I'm a doctor, right?
Tell us about the bone that you're describing.
There's probably some random bone in your back that will never be able to recover from this fight, that will always remind you that you're 54 plus years old. So just don't do it. Just cut it out. Sit and start to crochet a cardigan for Gilli.
I've got a friend he's 45 and he says anytime he wakes up without an ache or a pain, he reckons that he's going to have the best day ever because he's used to waking up with something. That's 45. That's not even that old. So that's what you got.
But it does start happening in your 30s. That's what happens.
And like if you bump something in your 40s or 50s, it stays sore for like a week. When you're in your 20s, if you bump against a table or you stub your toe or whatever, it's sore for like 20 minutes and then you're fine. So that's something to think about too. It's not very pleasant.
I went out on my birthday I got drunk on my birthday last week, and I don't think I have recovered yet.
Hangovers really, they hit hard in your 30s and 40s. Hangover just is not a thing to play with. You need a whole day to recover, sometimes even more.
Yeah, 2 days. I'd say 2 days for the damage I did. I don't know if it's because I'm old or because I haven't really been drinking for most of the past year, or both.
Might be that. You're out of practice. You've lost your drinking.
I'm out of practice. I'm one of those people, when the alcohol ban came in, I was like, all right, okay, well then I guess I won't drink then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, really? I know people who did that with smoking, and they've never actually gone back to it. Although that's a very tiny minority. Most of them carried on. They smoked those horrible Zimbabwean ones. The ones that
I did the same with men as well. Once they banned those, I stopped using them as well.
And you never looked back.
Never looked back.
No.
Just needed to import some random men.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure. Listen, we sit here and we criticize Mike Tyson, but I'll tell you what, he may be in better physical shape than all of us in his 50s, and there are people like that. There's this dude who I saw at the gym like 3 years ago. He's got like silver hair. He's definitely in his 50s, maybe even his 60s. I'll tell you what, this guy was more fit than I have ever been or will ever be. And I admire people like that. Like I'd want to be one of those cool 50 or 60-year-olds who's like physically in great shape. You feel good all the time. You kind of you're in charge of your body, not the other way around. I think that's amazing. And
I had to stop swimming because I was swimming at the gym a few years ago, and I just had people who were literally like 80, just lapping me. Like I couldn't. I would get to one end of the pool, and they'd have done 4 laps, and I just couldn't. I mean, I'm not really a competitive person, but that was really testing my ego.
It became humiliating.
It became humiliating. I just couldn't do it. What if somebody's watching from the treadmills at the top? They might think I'm drowning as well, which is a safety hazard. I don't want to cause a fuss.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, in this, because we started talking about whether or not it's a good idea for older people to be on social media, and we got reprimanded by Sandra. But I'll tell you what, Instagram does not make it easy. If you feel horrible in the morning, the last thing you want to do is look at everyone else's Instagram, because they're always putting on these. I don't know how any of those filters work, so I'm not good at that stuff. Siya knows how they work.
Maybe Sandra can teach you.
Yes, maybe she probably knows.
Maybe Sandra's Instagram looks really good. She should send it to us, and we can judge. But I mean, the fact is, like, some people are really proficient at that stuff, and they know which filter to use. They know how the lighting's got to look. They know which angle it's got to come from. I mean, I've just never been any good at any of that stuff, and it's not just because I'm bad at that, but also because I look like I do. So I've never found an angle that I think is something worth approving of. So Sandra's,
what's terrible is performing on stage, and then people take photos of you, and then you can't control what photos are out there. And the problem with the stage is you're standing there, you're not trying to pose and look good. You're just trying to do the job that you're doing. And then what happens is you see the photo, and then you see what you really look like, which is devastating, quite honestly.
Especially when you're making expressions, and it's one of the reasons I resist.
You have no idea. My face is crazy on stage, crazy.
I resisted doing this show on YouTube for years, and we eventually, we kind of had to do it because it was such an obvious opportunity that we were missing. And I've always, I hate seeing myself live, so I try not even to look at the screen most of the time. But it's hilarious because you'll react to something, and you'll go, and then you look at the picture because that's when it's frozen. And we did this the other day, and then you think, oh my God, that's so horrible. I remember also the newspapers always used to use the worst picture of me that they could find whenever there was a story about the news. They have like a library of the most terrible pictures. Not one of them is even slightly, what happens here? Not even slightly flat. And they'll use that one over and over again, even though it's like 15 years old. That's the picture they decide to use. Horrible.
Horrible.
No,
And I'm incredibly
I've ju-
vain. I don't like it at all. I see pictures of myself on stage doing crazy faces, and then I go, oh, that's why they weren't laughing that day. I'm terrified. I am terrifying. I'm going around the country terrifying audiences all over the country.
Yeah, I know for sure. Oh, man.
No, this time of Zoom calls and now doing the show online as well, I will admit, has made me even more vain, because I hear what people are saying, and then we're in a meeting and it's very intense and a lot of serious things are being discussed. But I'm always aware of, how am I looking right now? What is
Because you always
happening?
stare at yourself in the camera. Like even right now,
Okay, so
I
I'm not
stare
the
at
only
myself
one?
mostly, which is, no, everyone does it. It's crazy. I don't know
Okay,
what's
thank
wrong
you.
with us. Why do we stare at ourselves? What is wrong
Well,
with us?
I suppose there are also those people who are, they're hearing you say this now and they think, yeah, every time I'm in a Zoom meeting, I'm not really looking at the other people, which is crazy.
Which is the
But
thing,
it's-
one thing you can't do when you're in a real meeting. You can't look at yourself. So I think this is having
No.
some kind of long-term impact that we don't know about.
Well,
Oh,
I mean,
this is
think
a
about
whole
it.
new
People,
world.
nobody can walk past a mirror without looking at themselves, even if you're not vain. People do that, right?
That's
Anytime
true.
there's a mirror around, they have to look in it, because you're most of us are just checking if we still look okay, if we we
That's
haven't
true.
completely fallen apart, or haven't got like schmutz on our jacket or whatever.
You
We
know
haven't
what
got,
happens to me?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
I leave the house often in the morning. I think I look amazing. I'm like got the makeup on, I've like dressed up, whatever. And I think, oh, you are killing it. And then I go out and I catch a glimpse of I walk past the mirror and I'm like, who is that hideous person? I'm, oh, shit, it's me.
That's me. That's
Why
me too.
does that happen? Why does it look great in the mirror at home and then you walk out and it all falls apart?
Okay.
The other thing
yeah.
I realize that happens is this. Have you ever done this? You having like a good day. You think, okay, my hair looks good. I look good. I'm feeling myself. And then you go out and then you see a real, like a proper hot person.
Yeah.
Like a real life, like a professional hot person. And you're like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
This
And
I
then
know.
it's
This is
you in your place.
This I'm ready for people to roll their eyes at, and this is just superficial and completely vain. But there are two things I always make sure to do when I leave the house, particularly though if I'm going to an event or a party or something. So I have 3 different spots in my place that I use with different lighting to see how I look. I wish I was joking to make it.
You are such a professional. You really are.
It is my lounge, my bathroom, and my room. They all.
Here's what I want to know. How much does
Yes.
it vary? I mean, you're quite consistent in your appearance. How much variance do you get?
So my lounge has a lot of natural light, and it has these sliding doors in, so a lot of light comes in. That's the natural light. My room is very well lit artificially. And then my bathroom has a long floor to ceiling length mirror. So I'm able to see that whole look come together. 3 different lighting.
3-pronged approach.
Yeah, because the last thing you want is then you go outside. Maybe you'll be in a garden or out in public, then you need natural light. How will you look there as opposed to if you're going indoors? So I need something like my room to see how
which one is the most flattering?
Gareth, depends on the time of the day and what you're wearing and what you're going for. But you want to make sure that you look consistently good.
Sorry.
You want to make sure that you look consistently good in all 3.
I've come to terms with being Quasimodo, so I'm asking these questions, but I'm really naive about it. So Silver Super Scout says, guys, we don't really care what you look like. We aren't here for a beauty guru channel.
Silver Super Scout, we didn't care what your sentences are like. We didn't come here to read your sentences. Okay, we came here to talk cuck for 2 hours, and now you can just know. Silver Super Scout, we didn't come here to read that name. What's your real name? Tell us what your real name is. Say it to our face. Okay.
Yes. And then the last loserish thing that I do as well is I do the sit down test before I leave. If this is in like a new outfit or something, I sit either on my bar stool or then on a chair or couch. to see how tight it is, how does it look, if it's, they're tight pants, how much do they roll up, how much of my socks do you see? Very important. Very important.
That's a lot of work,
That's a lot.
Siya.
It's a lot of work for, I feel like, not a lot of variation. I mean, you look good. I feel like you don't have a lot of range from where I'm sitting. You know what I mean? Like, I've got range. Let me tell you something. Like from when I wake up in the morning to what I will look like at a wedding, say, I cannot tell you the range. I can go from like a 3 to a 10.
Yes. Ah.
So I'm just saying.
You have pretty amazing hair, though. I mean, that hair is that a maintenance thing, or is that just like?
No, here's what you have to understand about this. Okay, there's a lot of dye that goes on in here because my hair is almost completely gray.
You're joking.
Completely. No, I swear.
What did you do under serious lockdown then?
A sexy silvery color, or is it?
It's silver. It's like very gray, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And me and my friend, who's my best friend, who see the same hairdresser, are starting to think that he's actually putting stuff in the dye that's making our hair grayer.
Well,
that's what we've started to believe.
How long does it take you? Because I know. I mean, we've spoken to Pumi before about, black women's hair. It can take you like a whole day, like 8 hours or more to like.
No, this is a different story. I have to say, this is hair dye takes about you just dye your roots. It takes about 2 hours, but it's expensive. And the more gray it is, the more often you have to do it, which is what's happening to me now. I'm basically having to. I'm like a crack fiend at my hairdresser, basically.
Well, listen, whatever you're doing and whoever this hairdresser is, like, it looks good. So keep going. I mean, it's really.
Thank you. But the hair is my own, I have to say.
Oh, you got pretty incredible hair.
So I do. One thing I can thank myself for is I wake up. I usually have a good hair day. You've got to count your blessings.
Oh,
Gilli,
man.
then what did you do?
Sorry, Siya, I just want. I saw this ridiculous lad Bible thing come up on Instagram about how Prince William has just been voted the sexiest bald man in the world, and I'm like, yeah, but that's like winning, the wheelchair Olympics against people who have even worse problems. It's like
also people are very upset about that.
I know. I would be. I know for a fact that I would be the ugliest bald person. Thank God I've got hair because it would make me 20 times worse. I don't think my head is.
That's rubbish. You've got such great hair too. Look at your. Dad's got great hair.
Thank the Lord I've got some, because if I were bald, I promise you I would drop from like a 4 to a 2 instantly.
Basitsana wants to know my hairdresser. Let me tell you something. Brian Ho at Swept.
There we go, Basitsana. Now you know. Silver hair is like a fashion trend now. Just go for it, says LB. Would you ever just let your hair silver?
Let me tell you something. Let me just clear something about the silver hair that people think is so cute. Okay, if you are like if you're 25 and you get silver hair, it looks cool. It looks like a fashion trend. It looks like you're doing something cool. If you're 39, it makes you look like you're 49. That's all it does. It just makes you look like you are, you've given up. It makes you look like you've given up. That's how I feel personally. Some people are good looking enough to carry it off. That's all I can say.
What did you want to say before I interrupted you, Siya?
No, well, I was seeing like minor petitions come up with this whole Prince William thing. People are coming and trying to push for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Vin Diesel,
Larry David, Stanley Tucci.
Love Larry David. Now, just tell me, are you as big a fan as I am of Larry David? Because I think that guy is an absolute genius. And apparently in real life, he's as weird as he is on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Well, have you ever seen him in an interview? He's like, he's worse than the character. He's insufferable.
Really? I love that. God, I think he's great.
Me too.
Anyway, I'm afraid we're out of time. We'd love to talk about Larry David.
Wait, before we go, Dino Christodoulou says, Gilli, you're a belter. Thanks, boy.
Oh, very nice. Oh, there we go. Dino, nice comment there. Just to end things. You had to throw that one in, right, Gilli?
I had to.
All right. Well, listen, Abigail's got some advice for all of us here, and we're going to end on this. She says, heads up, guys, as you become older, you really don't care what others think of you. As long as I'm well-groomed, smell good, am neat and tidy, people will always criticize. Just do you. Thank you, Abigail. Very good point. Well put. And Gilli, thanks for being part of the show today. It's always good to have you with us, and people love you.
Thank you for having me.
So if you're ever bored and you've got a spare day, let us know.
Will do.
Awesome. All right, everyone, have a happy day. We'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early at 6:00 on cliffcentral.com.